Hello, my name is Jeremy Palmer. I'm an English language and literature teacher. I teach grades 9, 11 and 12, and in this video I'm going to explain how I prepare my grade 11 and 12 students for the IBDP English A Paper 2, which is the comparative essay. And so I've chosen two literary works, and the first one is I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings by Maya Angelou. The second is Persepolis by Marjane Satrapi. The essay question is, how do these authors depict gender struggle? I got it from an IBDP English A past exam paper. And so there are 5 lessons that prepare my students, and after these 5 lessons, which happen over the course of 2 weeks, they will do their summative exam. During these 5 lessons, there are 4 formative assessments where the students working in groups will be handing one piece of paper with their names on it. And that will be the first paragraph, the second paragraph, the third paragraph, and the conclusion. I skipped the introduction because the introduction is the thesis statement, and we're all going to have the same thesis statement as a class. So, the first lesson, out of 5, of course, the first lesson, the students walk in and they will see multiple posters. For example, the lesson objectives, which imply that the students will write at least 2 drafts before submitting their works and gain a deeper understanding of the marking criteria and the essay structure. They will also see the marking criteria explained, focusing on the higher marks and each marking criteria turned into a question. They will also see the essay structure, which has the paragraph, the thesis statement, which is your introduction, 3 paragraphs, and then the conclusion. Paragraph 1 focuses on Maya Angelou's depiction of gender struggle. Paragraph 2 focuses on Marjane Satrapi's depiction of gender struggle in Persepolis. Paragraph 3 compares both of them, and then the conclusion. The students will also see on a poster the relevant information about paper 2, such as how long they have, an hour and 45 minutes, in how they will be graded. It's an exam paper out of 30 marks. So that's visually what they will see, and they're surrounded by these visual reminders. So as soon as they walk in, the students are split up into groups of 4 because there are 4 marking criteria, and each student is given a specific marking criteria. For example, a student will focus on criterion A, which focuses on knowledge, understanding and interpretation, or criterion B, which is analysis and evaluation, or criterion C, which is focus and organization. And I tell my students that whatever they do, they need to look at the text through this lens, which is their criterion. So their criterion will determine how they work and what they focus on. They're the viewfinder, the camera, and the lens is the marking criterion. And of course, they need to make sure that when they work with their groups, they analyze the text through their own marking criteria. So, lesson number 1 focuses on writing the thesis statement. The question is, how do Angelou and Satrapi focus on gender struggle? How do they depict it in their autobiographies? And so unpack the question, why is gender struggle important? What does it imply? Let's define it as a class. Now in your groups, you're going to write the thesis statement. The first thing that you will do is to write the thesis statement, the plan, just a plan, which involves 3 things: the answer to the question, the author's purpose, and a reference to the stylistic features. So for example, in Persepolis, we're focusing on black and white, minimalist, stark illustrations. Whereas for Maya Angelou's I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, we're focusing on the figurative language, the metaphor, and the personification, the title itself, stolen from Paul Laurence Dunbar's poem called Sympathy, of course. And so the students work together, each student focusing on their own marking criterion. They are given 8 minutes to write the plan to their thesis statements. Then, I set my phone, the alarm rings, and 1 student per group stands up and is given 2 minutes and 30 seconds to explain what they have written in their plan. In the meantime, the other students grade that student and explain why they have given them that grade. So for example, I'll pick a student that focuses on criterion A, knowledge, understanding, and interpretation, which is out of 10, a third of their mark, and ask them why they gave them a 7 and not an 8, or an 8 and not a 7, vice versa, with hopes to understand what is an insightful answer, focusing, of course, on gender struggle, how it is depicted throughout these two books. Now, at this point, of course, the students have read the first 50 pages of each literary works. That was their homework. The students finish at 2 o'clock every day here, and they start at 6:30. So they have plenty of time to make sure that they read 50 pages, the first 50 pages of I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, and the first 50 pages of Persepolis. Once they've written and presented their thesis statements, the students are given the opportunity to write the entire thesis statement. They present it again, and then based on the feedback that they have received, they're able to write a second draft. Now, as a class, we come back and we decide on a common thesis statement that focuses on the answer to the question, how do these authors depict gender struggle, focuses on their purpose, why they have decided to write their autobiographies, and point number 3 focuses on their stylistic features, the techniques that they have used to express themselves, focusing on gender oppression, to be specific. Then the students agree on a specific thesis statement, and that will be the thesis statement that we will use throughout the entire essay. Now, for their homework, the students are again expected to read another 50 pages from each book, so that the second lesson focuses on paragraph 1. Now, I ask them, as they read each literary work, to complete a note-taking chart, which has multiple columns. Some columns focus on the tone, the pages where they got the evidence, just to gather evidence, the line, the page number, the tone, the technique that is used, the effect on the reader, so that they come to class ready to write paragraph 1 with sufficient evidence. Now, paragraph 1 focuses on how Maya Angelou depicts gender struggle. Now, again, the students are in group. Each student is given a marking criterion. The students plan, they receive feedback, they write the first draft, they present, they receive feedback, and then they write the second draft, and it is that second draft that they hand in to me, which will be graded as their first formative assessment of these lessons. Then they go home and they read another 50 pages, and they are ready to write paragraph 2 for the third lesson. Paragraph 2 focuses on how Marjane Satrapi depicts gender struggle, focusing, of course, on her illustrations and how women are stripped of their individuality, especially focusing on the veil. Paragraph 3, again, the students go home, read the next 50 pages, and paragraph 3 focuses on comparing both of these literary works to make sure what are their common author's purpose, but how do they differ in their stylistic features. And lesson number 5 focuses on the conclusion. Again, that is the similar structure, students working in group. Each student is focusing on a specific marking criterion. They work together, they present, they're given feedback, they write the first draft, then they present, then they write the second draft and they hand it in, and I give them feedback. Of course, the aim is to make sure that the students have multiple opportunities to write a thesis statement, paragraph 1, paragraph 2, paragraph 3, and a conclusion, and receive feedback from me prior to the summative assessment. After that, at the end of these 5 lessons, the students complete their exams. They have an hour and 45 minutes. It will be graded as a summative, of course, and on the pieces of paper that I give them, I split up their answers to make sure that whatever they write is coherent and concise. So for example, on the first page, which is the thesis statement, I give them the structure, which is answer to the question. It should be about 2 sentences and about 30 words. Then skip a few lines. The second part of the thesis statement is the author's purpose. Give them a few lines to write on, 2 sentences more or less and 30 words. Skip a few lines. And the third part of the thesis statement is the reference to the stylistic features that Angelou and Satrapi have used. Then paragraph 1, point, evidence, analysis, again, with the number of words and the number of sentences that they should try to answer the specific paragraph. And so that is how I prepare my students for paper 2, which is the comparative essay. Of course, I've just focused on one example, feminist literature. With my grade 11 class, I'm doing The Kite Runner with Elie Wiesel, the comparison. The essay question in this case is how do the authors help the readers realize the truth, which ties in perfectly with TOK. How do you know what the truth is? And they're both in the context of war, the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan and the Holocaust. With my other grade 12 class, we're reading Malcolm X's autobiography, and Things Fall Apart. And the question in this case is, how have these authors written a work of social commentary? The structure is the same. In groups, each student is given a specific criterion and work together. As long as each student knows that whatever they do, it is through whatever they read, whatever they analyze, whatever comes out of their mouth, or whatever they write is through the lens of their marking criterion. So that is how I prepare my students for paper 2, which is the comparative essay. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. Bye now.